All right. Is there staff ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Directors, you ready to begin again? Okay. All right. So returning from closed session, Josh, you want to report out?
Yes, there's no reportable action out of closed session. Thank you, President Jaffe.
No public hearings. Board members, it's an opportunity to remove items from the consent agenda. Okay. 4.8. All right. Is there public comment on 4.1 through 4.7 and 4.9 and 4.10? Okay.
Thank you, Becky Steinbruner. I had written your board and asked you to pull item 4.9. Are any of you willing to do that?
Nobody.
Right, no one wants to pull it. Well, I think it's rather
You can comment
remarkable.
on it now, though.
Sorry?
You can comment on that item now.
I shall do that. Thank you. I think it's rather remarkable that the RFP for the laboratory services for Pure Water Soquel project is on the consent agenda. It's a large part of your agenda packet. I did send you correspondence about my concerns regarding what I've read in item 4.9, the RFP. What bothers me is that there's no inclusion of biological organisms to be analyzed and recorded or reported in either the water that would be injected into the groundwater, the very high quality groundwater, and also not at the treatment plant. I sent you a link in that correspondence about biofouling and how regularly testing for certain types of bacteria can be early indicators of biofouling, which not only impair the water quality, but also increase the energy requirement for the reverse osmosis membrane filtration. So I'd like to ask that you do include that in the RFP. I also want to point out, because I don't have much time, I hope you'll read my correspondence. I took a lot of time to put that to you, and I ask that you consider it. Item 4.2 in page 20, there is a mistake in Tier 3 reporting. It says for May. I think it should be for July, as is reported for Tier 1 and Tier 2. I'm happy to see the Chrome 6 pilot plant going on online. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that possible error to our attention. All right. Any directors have any comments on everything but 4.8?
I'll move approval of all but 4.8.
LaHoo and Christensen, all in favor? Oh, wait, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was going to say aye.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, so that brings us to oral and written communications. So this is an opportunity for the public to talk about items not on tonight's agenda. And I see somebody there.
Thank you. Becky Steinbruner. During the closed session, I was interested in the correspondence and agenda and things that are posted out in the lobby here. And notably, the agenda for these meetings are not. They used to be posted in all of the libraries, but they are not. I also noticed upon coming back into the room and looking for some page numbers, the graph that I talked about, to talk with you about. The correspondence is not included in the notebook in the back of the room. I request that you do include correspondence in your agenda packets that are made available to the public in the back of the room at your meetings. Also, regarding missing correspondence, I did write your board after your last board meeting about I think it's $45,000 that the district approved to have higher fences on the Chanticleer overcrossing. And I wanted to bring that to your attention because I didn't learn about it here. I learned about it at a Regional Transportation Commission meeting. And so I think it's something that should be discussed relative, President Jaffe, to your comment at the last meeting that the aesthetic value of the fencing at the overcross is good and that the district needs to do better. So that's what caused me to kind of go looking for that, and I found that correspondence. In the aesthetic analyses of the Pure Water Soquel project, Chanticleer Advanced Water Treatment Facility, the drawings showed trees and vines and all kinds of stuff. So perhaps President Jaffe's staff will answer your comment and provide at the next meeting what it is scheduled to look like when construction is finished, if it has been altered. And I know that members of the public would also be very interested in that. I believe that's all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I did see your correspondence about the fencing.
You did
I
receive
did,
it?
thank you.
Did all board members receive it?
Yeah.
And when did you receive it?
I don't recall.
Okay.
It was recent.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any board members want to have oral communications? Seeing none, we'll move on. Is there a report from district council tonight?
Yes, there is. Have one update on a recent opinion from the California Attorney General regarding the Brown Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the question before the AG was whether directors and other members of a legislative body were entitled to a reasonable accommodation under the ADA to attend a meeting remotely from a private location. So as a reminder, under the Brown Act, there's really two ways that directors can attend meetings remotely. The first is under what we call the traditional teleconference rules, where your location, where you're attending remotely, is listed on the agenda and is open to the public. The second is under AB 2449, which is a holdover from some of the changes we saw during the COVID pandemic. In those situations, directors can attend remotely from a private location in just cause or in an emergency for a certain number of meetings each year. And there's a requirement from those locations that you appear both on video as well as disclose anyone over the age of 18 in the room with you, and we've taken advantage of that a couple of times. So the reason I kind of went through that long background was this isn't the first time the Attorney General's been asked this question. And in prior opinions, the AG has said that there is no requirement to provide a reasonable accommodation to allow directors to participate from a remote location without listing that on the agenda or the traditional teleconference rules. Given the changes to the Brown Act and AB 2449 in this most recent opinion, the AG flipped and determined that there is now a requirement to provide a reasonable accommodation in those cases, recognizing that the Brown Act's changed. And because we allow directors to attend from private meeting locations under those rules, a reasonable accommodation should be provided with the caveat that directors essentially follow the same rules that are required, and specifically that they appear on video during those meetings and they disclose the identity of anyone over the age of 18. I just wanted to flag that both for directors as well as for members of the public. This is not something that's technically in the Brown Act, but is something we could take advantage of in the event we had a director with a qualifying disability. And in the event you think that that may be something that applies to you, or you know, we think it may be something that you should consider taking advantage of, we'll make sure to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah.
Can it be a temporary disability? like
Yes.
When he had his knees?
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Anything that would affect a director's ability to appear here in person.
Thanks for asking that, but no surgeries planned in the near future.
Well, my doctor tells me eventually.
Okay.
You never know.
All right. That brings us up to administrative business. There's no conditional or unconditional will serves. And so now, item 7.2, review and provide direction on special board assignment status report. And
Yes, and I think I'm going to start off this one, and Melanie's going to jump in if needed. She wrote the memo, so thank you for that. Little background, probably about 15, 18 years ago, some of you may remember, the board requested this list. And I think it was more out of just making sure we kept track of everything. And it's lived that long. It doesn't move that fast sometimes. Sometimes it does. But really what we heard a little while back was to bring this list in front of you to see what items maybe we can knock off. I know there's one on here, district new name. Maybe I'm hoping maybe we can let that one go. That'd be awesome, for at least for now. But you can always bring them back. But if there's anything you want to add too, as a board that we've kind of been missing, and maybe you've been thinking back in the back of your mind, we could add on there tonight. So, or any other modifications. This is kind of your list, and we want to make it what serves you well.
thank you. Public comment? None? All right. Tom, you've got something.
I know that it's not a big item, but I do think the aesthetic look of Pure Water Soquel, including the screenings that don't look like anything, could be on this list, or is it on some list? I just want to make sure that doesn't get forgotten, because I think we should bring those drawings back and then ask the artist and say, hey, take a walk on that bridge or look at the other bridge and then compare to what we got. And it's just blobs of blue. So I don't know, wherever, some list. So that's a possible one for this.
I think it's appropriate that we could add it to this list.
Okay.
I'd like to comment. It's been in place since I joined the board, and so I always took it for granted, but it could be more comprehensive, actually. With those kind of items, there's a couple of things that we don't want to lose track of, and the board should be kind of aware of, what's happening. Surprise, $35,000 surprises. That's just a brief example. Stuff like that. Items to do.
Yeah, I like that we've got this list, and I agree with what you said, Ron, that we don't need to rename the district at this point.
I'd be okay with dropping that one too.
And the water transfer pilot.
Yeah, and that was the other one I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, at this point, something that, how many times have we been offered water by the Santa Cruz? I don't think.
Been a while. I don't know.
Because they have the conditions that Loch Lomond is overflowing and other conditions that they just haven't offered us water. So maybe it would be something to bring back up if water is actually offered by Santa Cruz. I'm good with that one being taken off. Looks like the other ones I thought were still appropriate to be on the list.
Mm-hmm.
The rebate offering.
Although for the rebate, maybe it could be more general. And if this is a big ask, when it's easy for me to say, add this, but please let me know if it's too big an ask and the staff time is too stressed to, which, and so in that case, it could be, delayed.
Yeah, I actually think that item's been probably investigated, the rebate one, but we just haven't reported out on it yet.
Okay.
Shelley gone. But I will, if I may add, while you're looking there, one thing that might be helpful, and I say this as Melanie takes the reins, is I always, my intent was if I ever heard anything that I thought you meant to be on here, if it was in passing, to add it, right? But I was never quite sure. I try to treat everybody fairly, so it didn't matter who said it.
Mhm.
But it might be helpful if you have that item, either that's the way you want to go, and Melanie can be the capture, or any other staff said, hey, I heard this, let's add it to the list. Or when you bring it up, see if you get consensus, not necessarily a motion, that you want that going forward. Because we do work on it, so I just want to make sure it's that, it's where you want us to focus.
Sounds reasonable. They're usually, my recollection is when there is some feedback when items are asked,
A lot of times there is, that's correct. You're right.
immediate. Okay. I think that's all you need on this.
I think so, yeah. We got direction. We'll take off the district naming under O&M, A, the transfer purchase price thing. And we're adding the screens, which you got.
Right, and we are asking it by motion, and just in terms of this item.
Let's see, you were the one that wanted adding, but would you consider also checking on the landscaping that's on track?
I think just to follow up on the overall aesthetic plan for Pure Water Soquel, but obviously the screens are the most obvious right now.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I know can't be done until it's done. A lot of plantings can't be done until it's finished, but
Yeah. We don't want to put up a structure that's a
so adding that one in, then
that's a motion then,
that's a motion.
and to remove the items that were discussed.
And to remove those two items that were mentioned, was there just two, right?
Just two.
The renaming of the
Renaming
district
and
the water
cost of
transfer
water
price.
transfer.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You can argue.
How do you
over it.
count? It's mine.
Okay. Michelle wants it.
Who made
Right.
that? Can we get clarification? Who made the motion?
It was Tom made it and Rochelle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just took more words to get to it.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, so now we're moving on to the modification organizational structure and staffing, executive management.
Yes, and I'm going to take that one too. So this is being brought forth to you tonight as we enter preliminary negotiations with the management team, and some things have arisen, and have gotten support from them on this item. But it's basically looking at are we compensating the management team appropriately? And what falls out of this is there are two outliers when you go and look at those comps. And one is not paid enough, and the other position may be paid a little more than we think is appropriate. And so in that, the one not paid sufficiently is the finance manager. And the one that in the future, not currently suggesting to alter the salary, but is the HR manager. And also to move that not as a separate manager like they have the departments, but under the administrative wing where the board clerk, the GM, outreach will sit too, and give them a little bit of a home. We think that's more appropriate since they have no people reporting under them. Melanie, anything else you wanted to add?
Okay, any public comment on this? Go ahead, Becky.
Thank you, Becky Steinbruner. I would like to also take this moment to remind the board that the Director of Finance, the Director of Engineering, and Ms. Schumacher are all getting monthly bonuses that began retroactive to when the Pure Water Soquel project came,
How's
and
this
this affects their
How's this
pay.
pertinent to
This
this?
affects their pay. So I think it is germane to this because you're talking about the pay, you're talking about increasing the finance director's pay, and she is getting $1,000 a month, as is engineering, and Miss Melanie Mouse Schumacher is getting $1,600 a month bonus, and will do so until Pure Water Soquel comes online. I just want to refresh your memories that that's happening. Thank you.
See the point in connection. Okay, no other public directors?
Somebody over there had it.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I just wanted to, we got an email addressed to the board from the shop steward from SEIU, Brian Kenow. And I just wanted to kind of share a little bit, just to kind of bring it up, because he wanted us to talk about it during this discussion. And he says that the members are frustrated and apprehensive about the changes coming their way. And, just to kind of summarize it, he's talking about, wanting more pay for the workers and more staff, more experienced staff. So just wanted to kind of put that out there for the workers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look on this org chart, and I can't see Becca anywhere there.
Well, it's Tracy's position, the HR manager.
But where's public outreach?
Oh, do we not move it over on that? Pull that.
Sorry, Becca.
Wait, you're above everybody?
Yeah, it's on the screen there, Todd.
Sorry.
Oh,
I had some questions about the
you're all
chart
by
too.
yourself.
Well, I'm
And the arrow is moving up. Oh,
moving up.
okay. Are you going to be off to the side?
Admin.
Are you going to be kind of off at an angle then, off of that box? Okay. All right.
Oh, it's that big box. How did I miss it?
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought it would be tied to an admin, and I was looking.
And the arrows, they're going left and right, are moving into different,
Got it. Okay.
okay. But I could not understand I didn't understand the left part of the chart where it looks like there's duplication. The column on the left and the column just to the right of that. So the ones that are under O&M supervisor and O&M supervisor, are those old and new?
President Jaffe, we actually have two operations and maintenance supervisors.
Okay.
One of them is the supervisor of the distribution crew. The other is the supervisor of the operations crew.
Okay. So these are not duplicative. Okay. The other question I had was, there's a box by itself that's not connected to anything in the middle. This the associate manager for water resources.
Yeah, that is actually connected. It doesn't have the black line. It's just missing that black line going to the left there. Yep.
Okay.
Good eye. Thank you. Forgot to add that.
And now the arrows have been explained. Makes no sense.
And in the bigger context, this is just the evolution of the organization as you've seen it, and with adjustments every time somebody leaves or something big happens, we like to take reflection and make what we think furthers.
I'll venture to say this won't be the last
I'd say that's
change
safe.
in the organizational structure.
Well, I had one more question
Okay.
about staff analyst 0.7 FTE.
Mhm.
Okay. And so that is not a typo, that
No.
works 0.7.
Yep, 0.7.
Okay.
Yeah, board approved.
Yeah. Okay,
excellent employee. We accommodated and works for everybody's benefit.
that's all I have. I will say that on matters like this, I heavily rely on the general manager and assistant general manager for coming up with what makes most sense for our staffing plan.
Thank you. We work hard at it with Tracy too. She's instrumental in this. Certainly going to be missed on that front.
So there are some
Yeah, there's
motions.
yeah, in kind of the ABCD format.
Does anyone want to make any of the motions?
Sure, I'll have a stab at it. So by motion, we approve the revised three-tiered executive management salary schedule as presented, and the revised org chart showing the HR manager position moving to the admin department and eliminating the special projects communications / assistant general manager from the staffing plan effective on October 1st this year, reducing the total executive management full-time equivalent from 6 to 5, and the executive management job descriptions revisions as presented here and described, and the recruitment of the HR manager position at the proposed allocation and maintaining the incumbent HR manager at her current salary schedule placement through December 31st, 2024.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That was a
I
favor.
had it turned off. I just
Oh,
thought I
Okay,
It's a
so that,
I turned mine off.
now that was an aye, a late aye. Unanimous, yeah.
Sorry,
Aye.
I messed it up.
aye.
Okay. That brings us to 7.4. Receive information on communication and outreach during emergencies. I think this is what you asked for, Jennifer, so. So is this you, Becca?
And Melanie, we're
Okay.
tag teaming.
So yes, we're pleased to present item 7.4 tonight. It was brought up earlier this year related to more information and an overview of the outreach activities that the district conducts during emergencies. We were first going to do just a memo, and then we thought it might be good to do a PowerPoint presentation with some pictures. Again, Becca and I are going to present this, but it is, if you have questions, please feel free to stop us, and we can kind of answer as we go along. We are going to use an example of the recent water main break that happened in January in Aptos. So just high level, before we get down into the example and more of the tools and how the district engages in communication, just wanted to point out, I think one of the main tenets of the district and some of the things that we focus on is outreach and communication with our customers. Obviously, these are very important, and these are just some of the reasons why we really emphasize the importance of communications and outreach. Number one, we always want to make sure that we're expressing and staying with the public safety issues. We want to make sure that the information is accurate. There's a lot of sources of data out there, not just us, but others. And so, especially if it's related to the district, we want to make sure that we are pushing that information out. The third one, obviously, is, we work hard on maintaining the trust and commitment to the community and our customers, so we prioritize outreach. And then, of course, coordinating response efforts, especially when there's an emergency or an issue that incorporates multi-jurisdictions. For example, near and dear to one of the ones that was recent was the Bates Creek emergency that had a lot of different jurisdictions. Minimizing impacts, right? We want to try to remediate the issue that often requires continuous outreach so that we can address it and then get that information out. Regulatory compliance, the outreach often is driven by regulatory compliance, so we want to make sure that we're meeting that. And then, of course, there's the post-recovery efforts. Once an emergency situation is mitigated, we've handled it, we want to make sure that we close the loop on any outstanding outreach that's there so that we can make sure that everybody knows the information. We also want to do kind of a reconnaissance of evaluating our techniques at the end. This issue?
Sorry. We use a variety of methods of outreach and communication. And so on this slide, in our presentation, we're going to talk about the who, the how, and the when for the Aptos break and how that all broke out. So for the who, it's the affected customers, our general public, emergency responders, state regulators, and the media. The how, we use our website, emergency alerts, and the news functions, social media, outbound phone calls and text, door hangers and barricade signs. And the when will tell you how long it took us to do those things. So our example is from the recent water main break in Aptos on Huntington
Huntington and Wallace.
So the call comes into the emergency after hours, and then the on-call staff member responds and assesses the emergency and contacts the supervisor about what's going on the ground, what needs to happen, and then the response team is enacted. So the first thing that happened in outreach was we put a notification on our website with an emergency alert banner. We love the website because anyone can access it. It's immediate. It takes 2 minutes to do that. And that on this example, this was put up within the first 2 hours of the emergency. And you can see in the yellow is what the emergency alert looks like. It's that black bar that goes across the top. And that's on every page of the website, not just the front page. So if you happen to be surfing for other information, you would still see the emergency alert.
I think just to tee up, you can see on the banner, it says emergency alert, it talks about the date, and then it says read on. So the next slide that Becca's gonna go on is, if we were to simulate pressing the read on, this is what a viewer would see.
Thank you, Melanie. There's also on our front page of our website, the news articles on the left-hand side to the calendar, and there was a link to this page as well. So if you happen to miss the emergency alert, but you're looking at the news, you would also be able to click to this page and get this information. And this is automatic. This happened with the emergency alert. And so when we go into the website to put that emergency alert on, we put this information, and all of it is published at the same time, if that makes sense. So it's simultaneous with the black bar going across the top and then this information being published.
So this was the middle of the night when this went out?
This was posted at 10:40 p.m.
Okay, so it wasn't too late.
Right.
So you get a call from the staff saying, we need you to post this now.
Right, the call came in somewhere around 8 or 8:30. The on-call person responded. He contacted the supervisor, I believe. Nick, our operations manager, then contacted Taj. They kind of assessed the situation, looked at the maps, looked at the as-built, tried to figure out how to identify it, and then reached out to some of the communication staff, Becca, myself, and then Leslie and Valerie.
Another cool feature on the website is text alerts as well as email alerts. So if you sign up for those alerts, they will be texted to your phone, as you can see here on the right-hand side. I think, this is your cell phone, right, Melanie?
This is my cell phone. So I'm signed up to receive alerts. I know when the board packet gets pushed out. I also know if there's like an emergency situation.
You can sign up for alerts for news items, emergency alerts, pretty much anything we publish, you can get an alert on if you want to.
Are there many people signed up for emergency alerts?
There's 13 for text and 22 for email, so not a huge amount.
We have
But
to
that
let
says
people
to
know
me-
about that. Yeah.
Well, I was just talking to Melanie about this, right? So PG&E is a great example. Like, I never signed up for alerts from PG&E until the first time I lost power as a homeowner, and then I signed up for it. So we don't have a ton of main breaks, which is great. So I think that's also why we're seeing a low number of signups.
We've got to get more people aware of this, because I'll bet you many people would sign up.
It's a great feature. I think one of the things over the years working with this board is about not just the tools that we develop and employ, but the metrics. So quantifying, how many people are getting the views, how many people are accessing the website, how many counts are there on other things that we can push out. We knew we may be asked of this. We tried to get the information, and we can try and work on it. It's very hard to get people to sign up for some things.
Yeah, my take is I'd like to see an opt-out for emergency alerts.
Interesting.
Well, we can talk about that.
When we get there, yeah, we can talk about, yeah. I also want to point out what I didn't say is on the news and the alert from the website, the slide beforehand, we had 355 views over the 2 days of the emergency, which is pretty good. So next, we also pushed out information on Facebook. We know this is a social media frenzy for most people. That's how a lot of people get their news these days. So what we love is that once we push out, then people can also share to the groups they belong in, such as Aptosia, which has over 27,000 members. And so it's like anything on social media. It can multiply quickly at a very fast rate. And so this also went out within the first 2 hours, and then we made updates as it went on. Through our, our billing system, we have an outbound call and text system that we can send texts and phone calls to. And so I talked to Valerie today to actually get some more information about how that all works. And actually everybody is opted in our Tyler for emergency. Those 99 customers that we say have opted out of this actual example, they're auto pay customers. And so our auto pays are the only ones that are opted out, because at the district currently, we send out reminders to pay your bill 2 days, a phone call 2 days before your bill's due. And so we don't do that for auto pay customers, because they had a lot of complaints of being called of that their bill was due, and they're like, but we're on auto pay. So that's what those 99 are, our auto pay customers. This went out within the first 3 hours. Valerie and Leslie got this out. Unfortunately, we didn't know until the morning that the calls actually didn't go out. Looked like it did in the system when they sent it, and then in the morning they had to troubleshoot with the billing company to find out why.
This was a technology issue that, one, we identified, two, Valerie tried to fix and correct, and we pushed something out, and three, we've worked into our system some lessons learned. So Becca just kind of gave an overview of the outreach activities and communications that we did from basically when the main broke at 8:30 till about 11:45 at night. Then the crews were going to work. We kind of checked in with Nick at the end of the night. He said, we'll probably be working through the night. Let's check in the morning. When we woke up in the morning, Nick had already kind of texted several of the managers about the latest status, which was that they had isolated the main break at about 7 o'clock in the morning. 70 of the homes were able to stay on service. 70 of the customers did have a main repair, but we needed to work with the Division of Drinking Water on issuing a boil order notice. So that is standard process. That's part of that regulatory compliance that we talked about. And through that, we prepare a boil order notice. The Division of Drinking Water has to approve it. And then once we have the approved boil order notice, then we engage again on a second round of outreach activities that Becca's going to go over.
Once that boil water notice was approved by the state, we went ahead and posted on our website again on social media. So those texts and emails went out from the website and the notifications of that update to the website, as well as, I believe, the outbound calls and texts. And since Valerie had fixed it, then those calls all went out.
So if anybody went onto our website, what we tried to do is if you looked at the latest news, we kept the last post on there. So chronologically, they could see how things were updated.
And we would put updated with the time so they knew exactly when we were updating the website. In addition to those things we normally do with the website, the text, social media, the outbound calls, we also did door hangers to all of the residents and customers, as well as the barricade signs that you can see in the picture there. I meant to bring the door hanger and I forgot. I'm sorry. If you've ever seen one, we stapled the boil water notice to it and hung it on their door. So. And then once the boil order notice was lifted, we went and did the same thing again. Updated the website, those texts and emails went out. The outbound phone calls and texts from the Tyler system went out. Social media was updated, put out the canceled boil water barricade signs, as well as put another door hanger on those customers' doors, letting them know that the boil order was canceled.
So I think at this point, and just kind of wrapping up, we wanted to share some of the lessons learned of those outreach activities that went on during this emergency, as well as get feedback from you. First of all, the first one obviously was we wanted to note that when an emergency situation occurs like this, we want to make sure that we tell the general manager. One, as I'm going into that role, I want to make sure that I know so that we can inform you. But in this time, a lot of times we have managers that we feel are very qualified to do the work. We didn't want to impact Ron. I think Ron knew, but again, these are late. So, people go to sleep, right? So lessons learned on that. We just want to make sure that the line of communication between the general manager and the board through this process. If you have questions, you can always reach out to the general manager, and the general manager would be that point of contact during the emergency until it's complete. We also recognize that we have multiple staff members who help facilitate outreach. We have a lot of different technology and tools that are out there that Becca mentioned: Facebook, our Tyler billing system, WaterSmart, et cetera, et cetera. All of these have usernames and passwords, and sometimes they have logon privileges. So we want to make sure to eliminate any pinch points related to that. I know the website because we helped develop it. I don't know all the ins and outs of the website anymore. So just making sure that we either have multiple staff members trained or that there's procedures written out that anybody can access if needed. Why don't you go over the third one?
So Valerie did figure out you can override that opt-out for those auto-pay customers and manually send the notifications through Tyler. So she has to go through every single customer by hand to do that. However, she'll do it when we need to. We are looking into other ways of making that easier for our customer service staff and other staff that are trained to get those calls and texts out, with possibly maybe eliminating the phone call 2 days before your bills. But that's something that staff needs to talk about and see if that's an option, because then everyone would be opt-in and she can just pull the addresses and send immediately.
It's definitely an area that we think that there can be some improvements, and we're looking into how the technology can assist with that and what the opportunities or limitations are.
We also learned that we should send those outbound calls and texts to at least a couple staff members so we know if they go out or not. That's another lesson learned from the Tyler system, because Melanie and I are both signed up for the alerts on the website and we knew those went out.
But when you go through the system and it was identifying customers, if you weren't a customer, we weren't getting it. So now Valerie, can add her contact information so she would get that. The door hanger one is one that we actually have some lessons learned on that. I think Ron had a recent experience in his neighborhood in terms of a main break. And so, we have all these methods. We definitely have, we can do far reaching, but the ones that we really want to make sure that we're communicating with are the people who are most impacted. I think, this is kind of what was brought up with Director Balboni kind of asking us this, is because I think we were trying to figure out how can we improve, or what are the ways where some of the methods that we did maybe weren't being realized or recognized or had that direct penetration. The door hangers was one that we did realize. We had our customer service field put out on that next day. The main was repaired. The boil order notices went out at 7:30 to 8:30. The barricades went out, and then they did the 70 door hangers. We then had to wait for DDW to clear the water, that it had passed the necessary number of back tees, and that line could be put in service. And then we went through and we did a second round of door hangers that Becca mentioned. When our staff went around and notified those 70 impacted customers, there were quite a few homes that still had door hangers still hanging on their doors. So we're not sure if those homes are vacant, if they use a different access point, if we don't know why, but there was an ineffectiveness on some of the door hangers that we realized, that we felt that is like the most direct, like person delivering a notice. I think that's why, we try to emphasize. I know we've done some improvements on the barricades. Previously, before Becca, whenever we had an emergency break and our crews would go out with barricades, we'd be printing things off of our big plotter and making them really customized. And then, if it's raining or whatever, they got damaged. And Becca was like, we need to make these vinyl so that the field crew have them. And so we have they're ready, and we've made an improvement. And I think that is one way that we might be hitting more people. And we've talked about that. Not all, more than the 70 people that are affected are going to see a boil order notice. And then they may not actually have it, and they may call. But in those instances, it might be better that we have a little bit overreaching, and then they can call us, and then we can say, oh, let's look you up, and you're not affected.
When you put the hangers on, do you knock at the door?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually don't know if they knocked. We should check on that. I want to check on that.
When I put them out, I do knock.
I know. I wonder. Sometimes I think some people just want to just do it because they don't want to deal with anybody mad.
Right.
No, it's a good point. I will check on that, so that as we start doing this, we really are trying to write some SOPs so that, any staff that does that, they kind of know the thank you. Oh my gosh. Yes, standard operating procedures, SOP. Another suggestion that we took from that also is to try to use Water Smart, right? We have, again, some different platforms of ways that we sign up customers and get their information. So the Water Smart platform is another tool that we're going to try to implement. We also want to make sure that we're checking the social media platforms during the emergency. We like to see that there were several times where it was shared. We also saw that there were comments. So just making sure that we have a staff person that is managing and overseeing the social media platforms. And then I think the last one we want to end on before we open it up to more comments is that we are trying to incorporate the pre-planning with staff so that we continue to be trained. We do have, this type of emergency, but there are others. And as we have new staff or staff takes on different roles, we want to make sure that we are periodically training and everybody knows where the resources are.
All right, thank you. Any public comment?
Yes, thank you, Becky Steinbrenner. Thank you, Director Balboni, for bringing this forward. And it sounds like the the analysis is going to really improve things in the future. It's always good to look back on what went well, what didn't, and why, so that you're better prepared for next time. It's very fitting to evaluate this. This is basically the 4-year anniversary of the CZU fire. As you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the area where I live, the Aptos Creek Canyon. You have customers on Cathedral and those areas that there is no cell phone reception. If there were an emergency, there would be no power. So I think it's really smart to use the barricades and very wise of you to get the vinyl ones that are ready. You can grab and go and are weather resistant. But I also want to ask that you push this out and maybe talk with water purveyors in areas that have had fires and earthquakes and what they learned, so that you're not, you can take advantage of what they have learned in true emergencies, earthquakes, fires, and also fiber optic sabotage, which our county has experienced a couple of times. So if people don't have a phone, they don't have internet, they don't have power, how would you reach them? So it's good to think about those things, and I know that you have, and I know that you will continue to do so. I'm happy to hear that the AMI water smart technology could be used as a way to sort of relate back and contact people. I'm curious, a bit going back to those barricades, did you get any calls from people because of the barricades and wanting more information? Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. You want to respond to that last question? I'm sure you did get calls.
We did get some calls.
Good. All right. Any questions, comments from directors?
Thank you. Thank you. I figured you were on top of it because everybody was curious and monitoring and, what was going on. Luckily that was a singular event for us. So it is a good learning experience, because I think when you're in an emergency situation, if you don't have a checklist, you forget things just in the immediacy of the moment. So it's like you really already had it under control.
Rochelle?
I was thinking about your trainings, annual trainings, and I know winter may not be the only time where you have these. But I was thinking that doing them in December before the rains start coming in case there's washouts that cause the pipelines to break, might be a good time. And you could have them anytime, I know that, but maybe at least that would be the most likely time that there could be something. Can't guarantee an earthquake's going to happen at that time of year, but
No.
But
Nothing?
Yeah, in this case, it was very unfortunate that the text didn't go out. So that was not great, but I love that we are trying to make it better. It seems to me that a lot of the people that live in our town are, quite a few of the people are not real tech savvy. So having all of these different types of approaches is really smart. And I would definitely love to see that texting be the main way of alerting people, and to have figure out how to get rid of the auto text to pay the bills 2 days ahead, and to actually have people have to opt out. I think that would be really smart. I think emergencies are coming our way, big ones, and to be really prepared is where the district needs to be. Thank you for your work on that very much.
Yeah, there's a Malay proverb that I like on emergencies is prepare the umbrella before it rains. So I would like to see more people on the emergency alerts, particularly with text. So whatever way you can make that happen, I think that'd be great. There is a county system, and perhaps you can have some link to that so that they send it out as well. And I had a question about, Becky brought up fires and earthquakes, infrequent events, hopefully. But might be too much to go into now, but at some point in the future, I'd like to see what our plans are for those. So I guess that gets on the list when people say definitely.
I have a question too.
Special assignment.
Special assignments. But, obviously, decide when it's best to present.
I have a question. It's kind of probably, I don't know, my inexperience working with the media, but how do you get on the 11 o'clock news?
It's very difficult right now with media, I feel in general, because their staffing is greatly reduced, which has impacted their coverage. It does seem that getting on the news is when something extremely dire has happened. And that's where we were like, okay, then maybe we don't necessarily need to be newsworthy if that's what sometimes triggers the news. I think that, we have seen, and it could be just the way that things are impacted, right? When we talk about some of our water emergencies that have occurred where we've gotten news, and probably in the last 2 decades that I have been here, it's been, the extreme one where a whole road washed out and people are stranded, and, it got kind of federal and national attention. We've also had it where a well went out during the summer. Gosh, that was years and years ago. And we had to issue, a lot of notice that an area, it was limited water supply until we could get that well back online. So it's in those situations where it's a kind of a very critical situation is when we will definitely try to make more media. Becca and I, we keep up the relations with the media crews. We provide them information. We will push out our own press releases, hopefully to get them captured. But that's kind of been our past experience.
It would be nice if they had a little banner. If you live at, the water outage banner on the bottom. We don't have to talk about it, but at least it would be there so people would know.
Mhm. Anything else on this? All right, thank you very much.
I think the one last comment, we took down a lot of great notes. We'll continue to improve and add those things. And I think just similar to the board's direction related to increasing participation in Water Smart, we have our newsletters, we have our e-blasts. As we get into the winter months, you might likely see that kind of key messaging.
Sounds good. So we're running over 2 hours now, 2 hours and 19 minutes. And we have one more.
2 more items.
No, receiving presentation on Pure Water Soquel project. Is that a long item or how long is that?
It does not have to be long.
Okay. Just taking the pulse here.
That's great. And we
And if
Ron says shoot for 5. Okay.
that helps.
I think obviously, we appreciate the time to provide an update to the board. This is one where we provided an update last year around July. Again, most of the activities are construction focused, and Cameron is going to talk a little bit about that. But we can be mindful, we have some photos, and really we just wanted to take the opportunity to provide just, again, a project overview, which you all know, but sometimes we just like to hit it succinctly in case there are people who are watching this as a recording. Cameron will go through a construction activities update. We'll touch just briefly on outreach because it is such a key component of the project, and then the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
So, as many people know, and we continue to emphasize, that the Pure Water Soquel is a recycled project that's going to purify treated secondary effluent from the Santa Cruz wastewater treatment plant.
Tertiary.
It's secondary effluent that the city of Santa Cruz puts out to the ocean.
Okay, so.
Yeah. And then we will treat it to tertiary, like Direct President Jaffe is mentioning. We will treat that to tertiary levels at the wastewater treatment plant. But the majority of the water will be secondary effluent that goes to the advanced water purification facility at the Chanticleer site. That's where the purified water will be generated and then go out to the 3 seawater intrusion prevention wells. Cameron's going to talk more in detail about those construction aspects and the status of it. But again, just high level, big picture, the project is designed to produce up to 1,500 acre feet per year, 1.3 million gallons per day of purified water. That is to achieve both protective water levels, create that seawater intrusion barrier, and replenish the groundwater basin for current and future uses. And we also have the project to be designed so that the underground infrastructure, if expanded, doesn't have to go through the construction activities. Those have been sized for expansion. If the project were to be expanded to more than that amount, though, the above ground facilities would need to be built out. We would need to do a project level EIR, go through that design effort, and then build it. Just touching on some of these are the kind of the key benefits of the project. We're obviously reducing ocean discharge. We're creating that seawater intrusion barrier I mentioned. This is a very reliable and drought and climate-proof water supply, especially in times of rain or prolonged droughts. This project was timely, if you guys remember. It was actually August 26th of 2014, which we recognized in the staff memo, when the board directed staff to go forward. So we are just approaching the 10-year anniversary of this project, from going from concept to operations. Yeah, it seems like a long time, and yet it also seems like not a long time. The project, obviously, with a reliable water supply, will help support and promote economic vitality. This water is regulated by California. It's very high quality, purified water. I mentioned it can be scaled up, and again, we're going to be using the energy source that is can be from a greener portfolio. And then I'm going to turn it over to Cameron, who's going to give you the update related to the current activities.
All right, thanks, Melanie. Yeah, so we're going to talk about basically the 3 elements: so the SWIP wells, the seawater intrusion prevention well construction, and we'll also talk about the pipeline installation, or what we also refer to as the conveyance project, and then the treatment facilities, which it really includes, the Title 22 treatment facility at the Santa Cruz, and then also the Chanticleer site, the advanced water purification facility. So we've included some pictures here of some of the recent activities to give you an update on how the conveyance project has been going. The pipes in the ground, they've been moving into concrete sidewalk restoration. They've been repaving all the areas. And also on the Laurel Street Bridge, they've been putting in place the architectural covering and the fencing. And then they've been doing some work on the tracer wires to facilitate with the pipe location for future. Moving right along to this is photos of the Santa Cruz facility. This would be the non-potable Title 22 system that's being constructed. So construction's pretty much wrapping up for that facility. I just want to reiterate for this one that while this construction was occurring, the Santa Cruz wastewater treatment facility had to continue operating as well, since that is a critical facility. And so we've been communicating a lot with the city operators and collaborating really well with them while all this construction has been happening. Some of the milestones recently, that site was energized for our PG&E power in July, which really paved the way for us to move into some startup and commissioning activities. which I can go into in some other slides as well. But what you also see here is the source water pump station. Those are the vertical turbine pumps that are going to be providing the secondary treated effluent to the Chanticleer facility. And then also there's a picture of a cloth filter, which is one of the first, or I guess it's the second kind of treatment step for the Title 22 system. And then after that, you have your UV system. And then they've also been doing paving around the site just to return it to conditions prior to construction. I'm sure you're all familiar with this photo. This is the architectural rendering of the Chanticleer Advanced Water Purification Facility. The site itself, I don't have a picture right here to show it, but it's coming along quite nicely. It's looking very similar to what you see in the rendering here. And just as an overview, this is where the secondary treated effluent from the Santa Cruz facility is going to be coming in for the advanced water purification process itself. And then in some of the next slides, I'm just going to cover some of the recent activities at the AWPF. So photos here, we're showing some of the pipeline bringing source water into the AWPF and also the pigging station. For those of you who don't know, that pigging station was used to clean the pipelines that were put in place prior to putting them into commission. We've also had electrical equipment installed. Update on that, the site was energized in June, and so that again paves the way for a lot of the startup and commissioning activities. There's a shot of the ozone system nearly fully constructed there. That's the first treatment step in the advanced water purification process, and then you're going to be followed by the microfiltration, reverse osmosis. There's a nice shot of the feed tank going into the reverse osmosis or the RO system. And you have your ultraviolet advanced oxidation process there. And then finally on to the purified water tank. All the systems essentially are constructed with the exception of the microfiltration system. You can see there in the picture the membranes haven't been loaded in yet. That's happening this month, which is pretty exciting. In addition to that, I wanted to also mention that equipment that's throughout the facility has redundancy built into it through standby units with the intention that, if we have to take one of the units offline for maintenance, we can still continue to operate the facility at either full flow or at a reduced flow. One example would be in your RO system. There's 2 trains that you can see there in that picture. If one of those goes into backwash or goes into a clean-in-place process, the other train will be online, and we can continue to produce RO, what we call RO permeate, to continue its process along the treatment train. And one other thing to mention too in terms of redundancy is there are several diversion paths within this treatment process that will send water to the reverse osmosis concentrate wet well, and then that will go back to the Santa Cruz treatment facility as well prior, not being injected into the groundwater. I'm gonna do a time check. How am I doing? Okay. Thanks.
We have about, I think, 7 slides left, so not that many.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So then moving right along, we'll talk about the seawater intrusion prevention wells or the SWIP wells. Just as a reminder to folks, there's 3 wells that we have installed. What you're seeing here are some of the recent activities where they've been installing some of the pervious concrete at the sites. They have all the electrical equipment that's being installed. They've been doing site paving and lighting. They've been painting pipes, wall painting, pulling wires, all sorts of stuff. Instrumentation and electrical, it's nearly 90% complete. They've installed the factory tested electrical and control cabinets, pulled wiring, installed backwash tank float switches, which you'll see on the next slide. They got flow meters in, pressure transducers, etc. Thank you, Melanie. Yeah, some of the control logic programming that is currently underway with our system integrator, Tesco, And in terms of energization for these sites, what we're looking at right now is early September with testing and training and startup schedule for October and November of this year. That's just a couple other slides showing some of the antennas which we're going to be using to send radio signals to operate that facility. We've got float switches there in the backwash tank, and then there's some wellhead instrumentation there as well. Quickly, just update on some of the outreach activities, presentations and meetings that have been given since March of 2023. There's been 27. We've attended 13 conference presentations. They've given 7 school presentations, 5 community presentations, 2 meetings. We've given 23 tours since that same date. We've held 10 events. And then we continue to update the website at least twice a week, and we're giving e-blasts out on Fridays. And there's some nice photos of just some of the events that we've been holding. Did you want to say anything about the events? Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on to some of the other facilities that are on the Chanticleer site there, we have the Education and Operations Building, or what we're calling the EDOP building. We're remodeling that old glass shop that was there so that it becomes an education center, as well as the operations hub for our contract operators. Earlier this month, we had a 75% design review with the architect that was selected for that project. And what we're showing here are some preliminary renderings of what that building might end up looking like. So it's a pretty nice looking facility, a considerable upgrade from what it currently is right now. And then we're continuing to give facility tours, to attend facility tours at other plants and gathering information from similar utilities like Pure Water Monterey, WRD Albert Robles Center, and then Orange County Water District. In terms of contracts and agreements, most of you know, we approved the Jacobs contract in May. Tonight, we talked about the laboratory services RFP, or request for proposal, that's going to go out. And then also, we're working on a district and city operations and maintenance plan for the Pure Water Soquel facilities that are located at the Santa Cruz wastewater treatment facilities. So not just the non-potable system that's there, but there's other systems that the district owns that the city has been contracted with in order to operate and maintain through the life of the project. And then in terms of schedule, we put together a staff memo to kind of highlight some of the past events that have brought us to that yellow star, where we are now. And so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that in the interest of time, but I want to draw your attention to the construction and operations rows on there. The construction being in that dark blue, the operations being in the purple. We're still technically in construction right now, even though the majority of the facilities have already been completed. And the reason for that is because startup and commissioning is a part of the construction phase. And so you can see where the replenishment little icon is there in 2025. That's what our goal is, March 2025, to be operational by then, to be replenishing the aquifer at that point. But we still have some rigorous testing that we are undergoing at all of the facilities to ensure that all the equipment is operating as it's been designed, and that the systems are integrated and communicating with each other. Operations is overlapping with that construction because Jacobs has been an integral part of the construction process and providing feedback to the design builder, and they're going to continue to do so throughout the startup and commissioning process as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Thank you. It's nice to see a presentation given by you, Mr. Costigan-Mumper. Thank you. You are in charge of everything. All Pure Water Soquel is as Mr. Duncan had said earlier. I just want to say that it was a sad thing to hear that the board is considering taking off of projects water transfers with the city of Santa Cruz. That being said, I don't see anything about the conveyance part of Pure Water Soquel, other than just putting on aesthetic screens on the Laurel Street Bridge, which I hope are not happening now during the migratory bird time. I am aware that the system is designed to be doubled in capacity, so I'm happy to hear that the underground part is already set up for that. And I look forward to the water optimization study coming out that could support expanding use of Pure Water Soquel and, in fact, enlarging the system. I have been going over old documents in the National Water Reuse Institute panel that was here in 2017 recommended you do a pilot project. You didn't do that. So here we are. I remember hearing you talk about off-ramps in your board meetings too, and here we are. I am happy to see that there's some attention given to aesthetics. I'm very happy to see that the fence at the Willowbrook injection well has been remodeled to not look like a gulag next to the Montessori school. That was a good thing. And again, I want to urge you to make sure that there are testing for biological contaminants. That was one thing that the National Water Research Institute panel cautioned you about, CECs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make a quick correction. What was
Please do.
taken off about water transfers was my ask to get a costs, including staff time for those. It's not taken off anything but the list for our staff on what to do.
Thank you for that clarification. It wasn't clear during your discussion. Thank you.
Jennifer, it looks like you wanted to say something, or no? Is there anything, any questions, or?
Sorry. The panel, that panel was a very educated panel, but they did not recommend that we do a pilot study. They said that we didn't need to do that because there has been so much work and research that we could rely on that based on other agencies' pilot studies. So that's one of the things that was taken off the table, and it was very cost effective.
All right. Anything else? Thank you for the presentation.
I would just like to add to that, and it's been a while since the NWRA panel came out with some of their recommendations, but during the feasibility, the district did conduct some pilot testing down at the wastewater treatment plant, specifically with microfiltration.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. And
Just on the outreach part of the actual purification facility, just even though I know we're going to have movable exhibits for tours, I still think it'd be good to have signs that kind of say what, this is reverse osmosis, even if they're up high and out of the way, and maybe arrows that show which way things are going.
thank you, Tom. All right. So,
Nice presentation, though.
yeah, very nice. Thank you. And thank you for keeping it to the point. All right. So, Jennifer reminded me that we have item 4.8 from the
Consent agenda.
consent agenda. It's late. Okay.
Yeah, so I asked to pull the consent agenda item 4.8. This item asks the board to approve an additional $300,000 in monies for litigation. This litigation has been brought forth by Rebecca Steinbrunner, who is not a Soquel Creek water ratepayer. She has now filed a total of 8 legal challenges, more than enough to ask the courts to declare Ms. Steinbrenner a vexatious litigant or someone who repeatedly files lawsuits that have little or no merit. Also, note that out of the 8 lawsuits, she has filed. 6 have been ruled in favor of the district or dismissed. And finally, just to note that this has cost our district $1.2 million, and our district is funded by our ratepayers. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment?
Thank you. I would love to respond to this. Becky Steinbrunner, the litigant. I'm not a customer of Soquel Creek, but I do represent the public. This has all been pro per for public benefit. I'm not the only person that's worried about the effects of this project on injecting treated sewage water, and that's what it is. You can't get out a number of compounds, DEET, sucralose, that's why they're there for testing. And it will also inject nitrate and chloride at fairly high levels into the pristine aquifer. Many people think this isn't necessary. Many people are worried about the implications of health. We have doctors, my own, telling me don't drink that water. And we have seen that the costs of operation have gone up from an estimated $2.5 million a year to over $6 million a year. So I represent the public interest and the environmental interests, which I think a lot of this has ignored. And the reason I've had to bring so many suits is because the district keeps changing the project, significantly so, even though addendums are said to be insignificant changes, but they were huge changes. One of which was not going under the San Lorenzo River when the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board had problems with that. Instead, it went to the bridge. There have been no seismic analysis for the structural impacts of fluid-filled tubes on both sides when the bridge has been significantly altered, as well as what happens if there's a break and chloramine, which is not volatile, goes into the river. It is toxic to all aquatic life. So that's why I brought these things. I have come to your meetings, much to your chagrin, and ask questions and nobody ever answers them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments by directors or?
No, I was going to make the motions, both
Okay.
motions.
All right.
And I'm sorry we have to keep spending money, but we need to be responsible.
Okay. Let's not have back and forth, Becky. Okay, so
I'm just making a motion that
to
we
approve the
authorize
funds,
the OCR funds for legal.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody? Passes unanimously. So I believe that brings us to the end, unless I'm missing something. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the best part of the meeting, right?
I know, I didn't get that, so next year, watch out.